Welcome back to Cancer is a Mitochondrial Metabolic Disease. We're going to be talking about a high-level overview of ferroptosis. We introduced this in the video on Monday. It was a very in-depth overview of the medical literature from a couple of the recent papers published on ferroptosis and having to do with cancer. But I want to make a shorter video that really gets more to the point with more pictures and less words. So I'm going to show this only to give credit to the authors. The first paper that we're going to be pulling from is this one from July of 2025. And basically what this paper is showing us is that it's no longer only apoptosis and necrosis. There are now many new, more newly discovered cell death pathways that have been found in the recent years. And those would include cuproptosis, pyroptosis, ferroptosis, necroptosis, peroptosis, lysosome-dependent cell death, parthantosis, oxyptosis, and we're going to be focusing on ferroptosis. So I'm going to use this again for credit to the authors. Ferroptosis is a vulnerability in cancer in July of 2022, and I'm going to focus in on this particular graphic right here. So all the text that we read about on Monday effectively comes down to this graphic right here. There are ferroptosis driving systems, and there are ferroptosis defense systems. And the driving systems have to do with the type of fatty acids, in this case, PUFAs or polyunsaturated fatty acids, changes in iron metabolism and mitochondrial metabolism, which ends up damaging lipids, which ends up leading to ferroptosis. And then again, there are systems in place that we have talked about in the past that help protect against this. So if we were to look at another paper that was published in March of 2024, there's a graphic that came along with this as well. And this is a cellular representation of this graphic right here. And so we have here iron import, we have the labile iron pool, we have oxidative stress that's coming from somewhere in the cell, likely mitochondria. Here's hydrogen peroxide interacting with iron through this Fenton reaction. We get a hydroxyl radical, and that damages PUFA fats in lipid membranes, and that will lead to ferroptosis. And then what also shows here in the same graphic is these antioxidant defense systems that are represented by XC and glutathione and glutathione peroxidase, and that's why it's having like a little blocking sign here. And so what we're left with what ferroptosis actually is, it's an iron-dependent cell death. And we need a combination of polyunsaturated fatty acids, which makes the membranes more vulnerable to peroxidation, ROS, iron, and the Fenton reaction, which help initiate and propagate lipid damage. And then the lipid damage is called lipid peroxidation. Those accumulate in the cellular membranes. And then there's the antioxidant systems, of which there are many, one of which is this system XC or SLC711, glutathione, glutathione peroxidase, CoQ10, and BH4, and that helps suppress the damage and prevent ferroptosis. And then ferroptosis occurs again when there is an overwhelming amount of lipid damage, which again overwhelms the cellular antioxidant defenses. And so I had ChatGPT draft this graphic here, basically based off of this five-part summary, right? We have polyunsaturated fats, which are vulnerable to oxidative stress. We have ROS, iron, and the Fenton reaction that are happening with the labile iron pool and mitochondrial ROS that lead to more unstable radicals, which damage these lipids in membranes, which is called lipid peroxidation. They accumulate and they ultimately overwhelm the cell, and the cell dies. What's also shown here in step 4 is the antioxidant systems that help prevent against this and buffer this. And that is a pictorial view of ferroptosis. And we are going to be talking about this in relationship to interventions and therapies that are meant to tip the scales in our favor and enhance ferroptosis happening in cancer cells. If you like these short videos, please like, share, hype, all the things, comment, and until next time.